It's what you make it. If you don't do anything, nothing will happen. There is nothing to escape from. You have to create your own reality here.
Dolph Lundgren shot to fame as the cold-blooded Ivan Drago in Rocky War, the unstoppable force who left audiences in awe. But behind all that movie glory, there were 5 faces that burned him so badly, he swore never to share the screen with them again, ever. At 68, Lundgren finally opened up, revealing these were once his close co-stars, even friends, until they flipped the script on him. They picked fights on set, cut him out of key scenes, and humiliated him in front of everyone. And wait till you find out who they are. It's a lineup of huge Hollywood legends. Right at the top of Lundgren's no-go list is Jean-Claude Van Damme, the biggest name on his secret blacklist. Yeah, that Jean-Claude Van Damme. Their rivalry became one of Hollywood's most talked-about feuds, long before either of them dared to admit it. And if you think this was just 2 muscle-bound stars clashing over egos, oh, it got way nastier behind the scenes. Everything blew up during the filming of Universal Soldier back in 1992. The producers thought teaming the Belgian sensation with the Swedish powerhouse would create instant box office magic. But what they got instead was pure chaos. 2 alpha forces constantly colliding. Crew members later said it felt like babysitting 2 storms in one room. Lundgren showed up sharp as ever, uniform crisp, lines locked in, every move calculated, ready for battle both on and off the screen. Van Damme, on the other hand, strutted onto set like he was the king of the whole production, calling shots, rewriting lines mid-scene, and demanding endless retakes just to throw in another flashy high kick. He even told the crew to tweak the lighting so he'd look more heroic on camera. One crew member later told the French press that working with those 2 was wild, saying, "Every day felt like watching 2 lions stare each other down, waiting to pounce." It all exploded with what's now known as the Cannes incident, the moment that locked in their legendary grudge for good. In front of a crowd of stunned journalists, Van Damme suddenly stepped toward Dolph and dropped a bomb. He told him to step outside and finish it. Everyone thought it was a stunt for publicity, but nope, this was real heat. Dolph later confessed to a Swedish magazine, "If I'd said yes, it wouldn't have ended well for anybody." That quote became iconic, a silent warning that things almost got physical between 2 of the biggest action stars of their era. Years rolled by, but that tension never cooled down. When they reunited for The Expendables 2, the bad blood still pulsed through every take. Van Damme pushed for script changes, tried to reshape scenes his way, but Dolph straight up ignored him like he didn't exist. They stood side by side in front of the cameras, but off screen, not a single word exchanged, not one. And the kicker? When someone asked Dolph in 2018 if he'd ever work with Van Damme again, he didn't even pause. He just said, "Why? What's left to prove?" And that's exactly why the feud between Dolph and Van Damme never cooled off. Neither one ever took a step back. But if you thought that clash was wild, the second name on Dolph's secret blacklist cranked the chaos up another level. Steven Seagal, the man famous for his on-set ego, took things so far that even Dolph couldn't believe what he was seeing. People joke about Seagal's attitude all the time, but for Dolph it wasn't funny, it was straight up exhausting. Their first encounter was supposed to be simple. A private meeting to discuss a new action flick. Everyone expected a chill table read, maybe some creative ideas tossed around. Instead, Seagal rolled in wearing dark sunglasses indoors, flanked by a personal bodyguard, oozing that "I run the room" energy. Before anyone even sat down, he looked Dolph dead in the eye and said, "You should know, I'm the top fighter here." That was his hello. Dolph didn't even get mad, he was just stunned. But Seagal wasn't done. A minute later, he threw out another line that froze the whole table. "I don't take hits on camera, ever." At that moment, Dolph knew exactly what kind of situation he was in. As the meeting dragged on, Seagal kept talking himself up like some untouchable warrior, demanding that the script be rewritten so his character would never lose, never bleed, never even struggle. The producers tried hard to stay polite, but Dolph could feel the awkward tension thick in the air. One of them even whispered, "He wants to be bulletproof." And it didn't stop there. Stunt performers later warned Dolph that Seagal had a nasty habit of showing off his real techniques, moves that actually hurt people for real. It was clear to everyone that this wasn't just ego. It was danger disguised as confidence. One stunt guy showed up the next morning with a swollen wrist, saying Siegel brushed it off with, "It builds character." Can you believe that? Dolph never forgot it. Years later, when asked about Siegel, he summed it all up in one cutting line. "Discipline impresses me. Pretending doesn't." That wasn't shade. It was pure truth. After that nightmare meeting, Dolph told his team flat out that he'd walk away from any movie the second Siegel's name appeared in the credits. Studios tried again and again to pair them up, thinking it'd be box office magic. But Dolph slammed the door every single time. That feud didn't just die. It never even got off the ground. Next up on the blacklist, Mickey Rourke, the man whose one sentence turned mutual respect into cold hostility. Picture this. A table read between two Hollywood heavyweights, everyone focused, scripts in hand. Then Mickey turns to Dolph and says, "You're the muscle, I'm the mind." That single line shattered the vibe completely.
He got jealous of me because I didn't break my nose or anything like that. He would kind of just beat me up, kick me in the body or...
For Dolph, that wasn't banter. It was a slap in the face. Their clash didn't explode all at once. It built slowly, through tense, uncomfortable moments on the set of their early 2000s action flick. The shoot took place in Eastern Europe, under freezing winds that could freeze your breath midair. But what really froze the production was Mickey's unpredictable behavior. Crew members still whisper about how he threw the entire schedule off track. Here's what really went down. Mickey showed up with pages of handwritten monologues he wanted to shove into random scenes. Whole paragraphs about childhood trauma, war memories, guilt, religion, you name it. None of that stuff was in the script. Actors would stand there speechless, not knowing how to react while the cameras kept rolling. It turned what should have been a slick action movie into total chaos on set. Filming with Mickey became straight up unpredictable. Every time the cameras rolled, he'd switch the emotional tone like he was rewriting the movie on the spot. One freezing night, they were set to film a tense two-man standoff at 10 p.m. But guess what? Mickey didn't stroll in until 1:47 a.m., cigarette hanging from his lips, muttering, "I needed to walk the city to get into character." The crew had been waiting in silence for hours, exhausted and frustrated. Dolph had been standing there in full costume the entire time, trying to stay focused while watching the clock tick. That was the night he finally snapped, turning to the assistant director and saying, "If he leaves again, shoot without him." But the chaos didn't stop there. A week later came the breaking point, a blocking rehearsal gone totally off the rails. In front of everyone, Mickey shoved the script supervisor and barked, "Don't tell me how to feel a scene. I feel it when it hits me." The room went dead quiet. Then he looked straight at Dolph, gave a smug little smirk, and added, "Some guys act from instinct, others just flex." That line cut deep. It wasn't teasing. It was humiliation. When the movie finally wrapped, things didn't smooth over. Mickey bailed on the entire promo tour, leaving Dolph to face reporters alone, fielding non-stop questions about Mickey's behavior. And the worst part? Mickey never apologized, never called, never even acknowledged what went down. Still, Dolph didn't let it turn into a public feud. He stayed cool but firm, later saying only one thing: "We won't share a set again." That was his quiet way of shutting the door for good. And that brings us to the fourth name on Dolph Lundgren's blacklist, Tom Berenger. But this time, the reason wasn't ego or insults. It was something far more personal, a line that once crossed, Dolph could never forgive. This one cut even deeper. It wasn't about ego or attitude. It was colder than that. Tom Berenger tried to erase Dolph from his own movie. Their clash kicked off back in 2002 during a gritty war action flick shot in Slovakia. The production was already running tight, small budget, packed schedule. But Dolph came in ready, expecting a no-nonsense, disciplined shoot. Then Berenger arrived, acting like the entire film existed just to spotlight him. Within the first week, he started handing out rewritten pages he'd done himself. Every single one giving him more dialogue, longer speeches, and conveniently slicing down Dolph's lines. The director tried to keep the peace, but the crew caught on quick. Each day, Berenger pushed harder, quietly shifting scenes so that every emotional moment landed on him and him alone. Dolph kept calm and professional until that one night at the abandoned steel factory. They were set to shoot a short, tense confrontation, quick and sharp, just how it was written. But Berenger refused to roll cameras unless he could deliver what he called a moment of reckoning. He'd written a long, dramatic monologue for himself, and when they finally shot it, the speech dragged on for nearly 2 whole minutes, completely killing the tension the scene needed. Dolph finally had enough. He stepped up, looked straight at the director, and said, "He's hijacking the film." Berenger didn't respond. He just turned around and walked back to his trailer, leaving the entire crew standing there in stunned silence. But the worst part didn't hit until later in post-production. An editor quietly told Dolph's team that Berenger had personally requested several of Dolph's shots be removed. Medium angles, reaction, close-ups, all trimmed down. He even pushed for extra inserts of his own face during shared dialogue scenes. It wasn't just competition anymore. It was sabotage hiding behind a smile. Berenger wanted that movie to feel like a one-man show, a personal character study starring only him, with Dolph quietly fading into the background. That was the final straw, the one line Dolph refused to let anyone cross. He wrapped up his ADR sessions, walked straight out of the studio, and told his agent a single line that said it all. "If Berenger signs a project, I'm not interested." And he's never gone back on that rule, not once. Now we reach the last name on Dolph Lundgren's infamous blacklist, Brian Thompson, the quiet rival who turned subtle shade into years of resentment. This feud didn't explode overnight. It simmered, slow and steady, fueled by sly comments and backhanded jabs that always carried just enough sting to feel intentional. Their tension goes way back to Rocky IV. While Dolph was adjusting to instant worldwide fame as Ivan Drago, Thompson was out there whispering to casting circles that he had also been considered for the role, and that he could have brought more emotional depth to it. Dolph laughed it off at first, brushing it aside as typical Hollywood chatter, but Thompson kept at it. Every time their paths crossed, award shows, after parties, industry mixers, Thompson found new ways to throw shade. One night at an event where people were debating the most iconic villains in movie history, he dropped a casual jab within earshot, saying, "Some roles are written flat. The actor can only do so much." Everyone froze. They knew who he was talking about. It wasn't loud or dramatic like the others, but it cut deep. That quiet, calculated kind of petty can eat at a person over time. And for Dolph, it was the slow burn that sealed Thompson's spot on the list forever. Things really blew up during a table read for an early 90s action flick. Brian Thompson couldn't stand any line that made his character look even a little weaker than Dolph's, and he made sure everyone knew it. In the middle of rehearsal, after interrupting Dolph twice to argue about blocking, he leaned back with a smirk and said, "Let's not make this look like a weightlifting contest." That one line hit Dolph harder than any punch could. It wasn't just disrespect, it was a straight-up dig at everything he stood for. But the final straw didn't hit until years later, at a Las Vegas fan expo in the 2010s. During a Q&A session, Thompson took a cheap shot at the legendary "I must break you" line, telling the crowd, "I'd have delivered it with actual feeling." The audience burst out laughing, but the joke didn't land with Dolph. Word reached him within minutes, and instead of showing up for his scheduled panel, he quietly switched to private signings behind closed doors, something he had never done before. After that day, Dolph didn't waste a single word on confrontation. He just erased Thompson completely. No callbacks, no collaborations, no future projects. This feud never made big headlines, but it's the one that stung the most, the one he carries silently to this day. So now that you've heard it all, 5 names, 5 betrayals, and decades of behind-the-scenes tension, which one shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if you were surprised. Subscribe for more untold Hollywood rivalries. And don't forget to share this with a friend who loves a little behind-the-scenes drama.